Hello and welcome. My name is Grand Harrier, and we're here today to discuss some of the developments within the Duel Links tournament scene ever since the release of the Banlist and skill changes update. I host several competitive tournaments, most notably the Duel Links Meta Weekly, formerly run by Decade of Duel Links Meta, as well as my own spin-offs, the Duel Links Grand Prix and Grand Prix Single Elimination. I'm extremely fond of taking a meta snapshot each week, building a history of the competitive landscape within Duel Links. And by hosting my own events, I've tried to do my part in continuing to chronicle each and every chapter. As part of that, today we're going to take a look at one of our most recent events, the Duel Links Grand Prix, number 28, a 1-deck, 8-card side Swiss into Top Cut tournament. After leaving what many would consider a Tier 0 Orcust metagame behind, we really had no idea what to expect. Was Orcust dead? Answer no. Was it put into a better place? Answer yes. And what sort of format would emerge from it as we go into a pre-world season? We have a new main box expected to add its own shakeup, and I'm here to tell you the metagame has been cracked wide open. And while not every deck is going to be able to compete at the highest levels, the diversity seen so far is delightful. Let us go over some of the notable changes and trends. You will see here the overall breakdown. We had 104 entrants after drops. The most played deck was, unsurprisingly, Speedroid, followed by Orcust, a primary amount of which was Pure, as well as Gandora and a Dark Lord version. Very interesting. Odd Eyes, the Raging Pendulum deck list, was also well represented with 12 of the 16 Orcust, 3 Pure, and 1 Trickstar. Do take note, the Trickstar version is essentially just a Candina and Light Stage engine to help deal with back row. Returning from Banlist Hell, we have Goki, Rockets, Trickstar following just behind. And then in the pet deck category, we have Raid Raptor, Resonator, and Salad Code Talker at 3, Burning Abyss, Heroes, Red Eyes, Sulfacord at 2, and then one each of Chronomaly, Cyber Dragon, DDD, Gimmick Puppet, Onomat, Shiranui, Six Samurai, and War Rock. Once we got through the Swiss rounds, the overall breakdown of the top 32 decks was as follows: 6 Orcust, 6 Speedroid, 4 Rocket, 4 Trickstar, 3 Goki, 3 Orcust Odd Eyes, 2 Raid Raptors, and then one each of the DDD, Resonator, Gandora, and Pure Odd Eyes variety. If you were to take a look at a breakdown even just 1 month ago, it would be over half Pure Orcust. A noticeable change. The winner was Speedroid, a rather unusual variation, very non-standard, but the overall game plan of all Speedroid decks is the same. Get your Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon onto the field, along with other assorted Synchro boss monsters, and to control it along with your back row before going in for some lethal plays. Clear Wing Acceleration has proven itself to be one of the most powerful skills in recent memory, allowing the Speedroid deck to have an amazing amount of consistency and play through several forms of disruption. It can often take more than 2 forms of interaction to force a Speedroid player to pass the turn. The Limit 2 on the double yo-yo had a small effect of consistency, but the Clear Wing Acceleration skill does a lot to essentially make this change moot. And this deck will likely remain dominant going forward until a new deck released, perhaps in the upcoming main box, or further skill or hard hits change this. Second place was Rockets. Rockets also received a small hit upon the ban list, with Silver Rocket Dragon being put to 3. A general trend has been to run a single copy of it while keeping 2 of our limit 3 traps as part of our package. Rockets remain a incredibly consistent deck, the skill change that it received making it very powerful, as well as the inclusion of Void Ogre. Next, probably one of the most surprising decks to see play has been Trickstar. Now, I have likened Trickstar to the Mermail Atlantean, or as it has commonly been known in the past, Water Xyz deck, where it does extremely well after a ban list and then tends to fall off. That said, we are seeing this deck only perform better over time, with a 2 main versions coming to fruition. You will either see them playing a heavier back row package, or they will forego that and instead go for running multiple copies of Dark Hole, White Princess, and or DD Crow, focusing on controlling the battlefield through its hand traps and board nukes. Honestly, this has been quite surprising to see. It does have some weaknesses. There are certain decks that can take advantage of the fact that it will have no back row available, such as the Odd Eyes Raging Dragon deck, or other link decks such as Orchist, which can put multiple bodies onto the field after clearing the board that will be unaffected by White Princess. This deck heavily benefits from the side deck format, where it has the ability to switch between the hand trap and back row version. And with cards such as Trickstar Crimson Heart, able to draw deeply into the deck with the newly buffed Holly Angel Trick, gaining you those life points like 3 effects. This deck should not be discounted. Goki have been performing in a mixed fashion. The removal of Goki finishing move and Goki rematch from the limit 3 has allowed the deck to operate at near full power, minus the limit 3 traps that it was able to make effective use of. Now it kind of has to focus more on a pure OTK strategy, as the single negate that Goki the Master Ogre offered just isn't enough anymore, especially with Forbidden Chalice so prevalent in the meta. A lot of times it just comes down to luck or the ability to disrupt enough and go for lethal on a second push. I expect this deck to continue to slowly fall out of the meta. That said, it has been extremely popular due to the fact that so many people owned it before the nerfs took it out of the metagame, and will likely show up from time to time. So do be ready to deal with it, as many of the commonly played cards, such as Book of Moon, don't offer as much ability to disrupt this deck's game plan. Another deck that didn't necessarily benefit from the ban list itself or the skill changes in the current incarnation is Raid Raptor. Raid Raptor, if it gets to go first, can build an incredibly strong board off of any single Raid Raptor Tribute Lanius, 2 Raid Raptors with the Vanishing Lanius, or any combination of Strangle and any of the other Raid Raptors. Oftentimes, if it goes uninterrupted, it's going to be able to end on an Evil Zor Solda, a Evil Swarm Nightmare, and a Rise Falcon with the ability to go into either a Satellite Falcon or Revolution Falcon on the following turn. Extremely powerful. It can also often end on 1 or 2 back row as well. This deck unfortunately does not do well going second and can struggle if it doesn't have heavy back row. That said, against some of the other hand trap heavy decks, it can benefit from the fact that it doesn't have to worry about that back row. Consider this more of a pet deck that people will play as opposed to one that you're going to see often. Here we see another version with more hand traps, more dark holes, only a small handful of back row that it wishes to take advantage of. Raging Pendulum. Even Resonator has been able to put in a little bit of work, although this is, again, put that in the pet deck category. But if you have it and want to play it, it can do well. Finally, one thing that I did want to talk about is the fact that we are seeing Orcus decks trying to find new ways to play after having lost Mermaid and receiving limit 3s on the Scrap Recycler. One common trend has been to run Charge of the Light Brigade alongside your Raiden Hand of the Lightsworn in an attempt to get some of the other Orcus cards into the graveyard, similar to what Scrap Recycler is attempting to do so. This has had mixed success. You will find these versions of the deck a little bricky, so do take note of that. And finally, a couple other trends that I did want to talk about is Salamangreat and Salamangreat Code Talker. Both of these decks have been seeing some slow growing success due to the fact that the play styles have benefit from the overall changes within the meta. We did not look at it here today, but in the single elimination event that we just ran, we had a Salamangreat Pure player make it to the top 16 and probably could have gone further. Salamangreat is able to play through many disruption, take advantage of cards such as Needle Sealing like it did in the past, and just benefits from its overall resilience. So do keep that in mind. Alongside that, some trends that we have also seen is Synchron's benefiting from the overall skill buff, Red Eyes benefiting from its skill buff. That will probably end up being more of a ladder deck, although do not be surprised if you see some tournament results in the near future. And then lastly, Sulfachord, a pet deck of my own that I'm quite fond of. It's still a good choice if you are a free-to-play or new player to the game, but unfortunately it has just not been seeing very much tournament success. This may be chalked up to people trying out other decks or the fact that it just gets overwhelmed by some decks such as Odd Eyes. But you could do well with that deck. And with that, please do consider checking out more of our events. We host them over at twitch.tv/Grand Harrier. You can find out how to join our Discord and join those events and help leave your mark upon the meta. Let me know what you think.